Thanks for tuning into TellyCast. Before you listen to the show, I wanted to let you know about our next content industry event, the TellyCast Digital Content Forum, sponsored by BBC Studios. It takes place at BFI South Bank in London on the 10th of November. The first event of its kind in the UK, it will create an environment for producers, podcasters, brands, media agencies, platforms and the wider content industry to gather, learn, debate and share insight on the business opportunities in the fast-developing world of digital-first content. Panel sessions during the day are designed to provide actionable insights and will focus on production, development, community building, IP, formats and brand-funded social content. Speakers include senior execs from Meta, BBC Studios, Lad Bible Group, Channel 4, Future Studios, Audio Boom, The Sidemen, Jungle Creations and more to be announced. The lineup also features top creators, including YouTube star Joe Sugg and Danny Robbins, creator of podcast-turned-TV series The Battersea Poltergeist. And our moderators include Creatorville's Sam Barcroft and former YouTube Originals Commissioner and Executive Producer Luke Hyams. Tickets are strictly limited and only available at telecast.com/events. TellyCast listeners can also get an extra £20 off the ticket price by using the promo code TellyCast+. We'll see you there.
TellyCast, the TV industry news review.
We're back in Cannes. There's over 10,000 global content industry executives gathered for MIPJUNIOR and MIPCOM. My guests this week include ITV Studios Ruth Berry, Banijay's Delphine Dumont, The Wit's Virginia Mouseler, Moe Bennani from Dreamspark, and the Backstreet Boys' AJ McClean, as well as MIPCOM's Lucy Smith. They're all coming up on this week's TellyCast MIPCOM and MIPJUNIOR special. My first guest on this week's MIPJUNIOR and MIPCOM special show is Delphine Dumont, Chief Commercial Officer at Banijay Kids and Family. Hi Delphine, how are you?
Hello Justin, I'm good, thank you.
Here we are, this is the very first interview we've done for this week's show. We're at the JW Marriott, right on the Croisette, sun shining. Lots of people out on the beach, lots of executives in the background here doing their meetings, their pitch meetings. How are things going for you here on the first day of MIPJUNIOR?
Good. Very happy to be here. Very happy to be back. Full swing. We had been back last MIPCOM, last MIPTV, but it was not quite the same. So it's really nice. And you feel this year that really everybody's back. So that's what it feels like, and everybody's saying it, so everybody's super excited.
That's good. And I'm hearing more and more American voices back again. We've kind of missed those, haven't we, for a while? Are you seeing a lot of American buyers here?
Yep, I am indeed. And also came out from a ladies' lunch where it was 100 ladies, loads of American and North American, Canadian and South American. So it was very busy.
So tell us a little bit about Banijay Kids and Family and what you're focusing on at MIPJUNIOR.
Yes, so the big message for us at the market is about the company having grown. We are now also being represented under one big umbrella called Banijay Kids and Family. And within that umbrella, we have 6 production companies now within the group. And so we've got Zodiac Kids Family UK, Zodiac Kids and Family France, as well as Monello in France, and Tiger Aspect Kids and Family. And the 2 new additions are Movimenti from Italy and Kindle Entertainment in the UK.
And those are fairly recent acquisitions, aren't they?
Yeah, very, very much so. It's been the last few weeks, really, just after summer that it was official. So we've had to do loads of work to be ready in time for MIPCOM, in terms of catalogue, in terms of communication, website, screenings, everything. So
lots of late nights bringing it all together for MIPJUNIOR.
Yeah, even weekends.
Right, okay, all right. And what about your focus titles then for the market then? Do you have one or two that are kind of the major highlights? You've now got a very, very big catalogue.
Yes.
Give us an idea of your hottest shows you think that are coming into the market.
Yep, we've got the Unstoppable Yellow Yeti, which is a show we're co-producing with Bigoberg, which is a Finnish company. And this is a show that has been co-produced for Disney EMEA. And this is a very fun 6+ comedy, all about humor and entertainment, pure entertainment. We're launching it at this MIPCOM. There was a soft launch at MIFA, but this is, MIPCOM Junior is properly. And there's a Mumphy. Mumphy is our preschool show. It's 7 minutes. It's from the original books from Britt Alcroft and cartoon from Britt Alcroft, but we've completely redesigned, relaunched. And so this has launched already on France Télévisions and RAI. It will launch on Kika and ITVB in the UK. So we started selling it quite widely, but it's really, for us, it's the first big market where we all back that we would like to share that with everybody. And as well, there's Silver Point. And Silver Point is an international live action that we've made for CBBC and ZDF, Canal+, ABC, Hulu in America. And this is selling very strongly, very well, and very proud of Silver Point. It's a big budget, very high quality. We all chuff with it, and we've all enjoyed watching it, the whole 13 episode, binge watched it. And there will be a series 2 coming as well. In 2023. So
okay.
That would bring it to 26 episodes, half hours.
All right, okay. And just to understand a little bit, now we're all back together again as an industry and as an international business like yours. You talked about the different new production businesses that are part of Banijay. Do you use these markets very much to strategize as well as a group of companies together to think about where you're going in the future? Because there's only so much of that you can do over Zoom, isn't there? How does a business like Banijay use everybody coming together for MIP Junior to take things forward as a business? Being
a bigger group now, we have a lot of different expertise that we have to balance out. And the core of our company today, the way that our CEO has chosen to lead it, and that really transpires in everything we do, is that we need to take individuals and the talent and where each person is coming from, different nationality, different background, different orientation, different experience. And we need to make this a force and a strength. And we need to feed from that. And I'm thinking actually that we're all very independent in what we do with our time and who we sing, being of course in the frame of what we're doing. But I think it's going to be about opportunities and what we're going to get from that. And it's about where is it next, and we're going to do loads of different models. They're going to be the more classic models, and meetings and interaction, and you're going to have the new conversation, business development. So it's all about asserting what we're good at, but also renewing ourselves and making sure that we're growing with the industry and with our target, with our audience.
Yes.
And adapting to their needs.
Yeah.
And I do really feel that within our company, that's exactly what we're doing. We're renewing ourselves all the time. That's why it's so tiring, because we always have to change how we do things. But
of course.
That's life.
But I think it's really interesting that we've obviously saw lots of merger and acquisition movement, particularly around COVID, for various different reasons. And now we're actually seeing a lot of these international companies coming together physically for the first time, or one of the first times anyway. So just looking at the global kids market then, there's obviously lots of turbulence in the world at the moment with wars, with a cost of living crisis that's coming down the track as well. What impact do you think that will have on your business then going forward, drive decisions that you're going to make?
Ultimately, the biggest problem is going to be funds, right? Financing, how it's going to affect us on a day-to-day, because what we do costs money. You have to pay this production. But I think, deep down, what we have to recenter ourselves on is content. People need content. People are desperate for content. And yes, even like Ukraine now, one of the projects of the company has been to have a channel for Ukrainian children who had to move out of their country.
Displaced. This is Sunflower TV. Yes. This is the PAC-driven initiative, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And Banijay participated, and Banijay Kids, within the Banijay, we provided a lot of Ukrainian dubs, went to our clients. So what I mean is that content is key. We've had to adapt ourselves. So, okay, this is not a money-making enterprise, but we were there, and we want to be there for this. And in the case of what's happening around, so it's political, that's one thing. We don't know whether we're going to be here tomorrow, so we can't really control that. But our job is to entertain, our job is to educate, our job is to create content for kids and family to watch at home. So we're still going to carry doing this. We might have to find new ways and reinvent ourselves in terms of financing. That's more, I think, where we need to go
So you
towards.
think financing is going to be the challenge in terms of how the next few months are going to play out?
Few months to years. Yeah, financing, because ultimately a show costs a lot of money, and what we're going to see that people are going to have less money if there's a financial crisis, if there's budget costs. So again, it's two different things. You've got the world, and then you've got what's happening in the world, economy, and stuff, and you also have those mergers and models. You need to become leaner, and things are going to have to be cut.
Yeah.
So ultimately, what I really believe is content needs still to be happened. The content creators are probably the one that are in the strongest position. The one, I think, the delivery, how the content comes to people, that's what's going to have to change and be adapted. And it is a matter of rights, how you share those rights.
You've got to react to the overall world market, essentially, and if consumers have got less money to spend, maybe they'll be cutting their subscription services or whatever. I mean, have you got any fast channels at Banijay? Is that something that you're focusing on? Because obviously we're seeing that the growth of those fast channels, you would imagine that might accelerate.
Yes and no. So fast channels is very good. We're there as a group. We're there also with kids. But fast channels, the way they will make their money is about already having shows that are known. They're not going to be the one, like linear channels or streamers, who are going to make a show become famous. They're a secondary model that it's great as counteracting maybe certain loss that you may have, but we're still quite far away from the model of building a brand on a fast channel first instance. And that's all what we need. That's all what we're talking about today. Is for the industry to live, you need to make sure that the new content is creative-led and feeding that industry. Catalog is fine. That's a distribution job, but that's not what's going to be the future. Catalog is being exploited on AVOD, fast channels, on all type of VOD today, as well as some pay. But where is the future? The future is still in content creation from the start, and this still needs to be financed. And I think that's it. It's a financing model. How do you go about this? Because another issue is that the cost of this production are not getting less. They're not coming down. Because that's another maybe issue we could discuss, is the fact that the demand is very high for talent. The cost of tech, I mean, we can see it on our daily life. It's not going to go down. Yeah. The price of wood, the price of anything.
Everything's going to cost more, essentially.
Yes, it's not going to go back down. Yeah. Maybe a tiny bit of percentage, but ultimately we would have seen a hike, and it's the same for everything. So we cannot even think, okay, we'll have to produce for cheaper. No, that's not an option. So where do we find the money?
Yeah. Well, if you can answer that question, that'll be a key for everybody. Everybody has got the same problem,
now,
right?
Then I think that therefore you have to be flexible in your models.
Yeah.
You're going to still have models that you've done in the past that may work for certain shows and some other shows. So you need to be creative. Yeah. That's why it's going to force us to be creative, and hopefully it's going to force platform and to realize that they need the other people too. People are not going to be able to finance a show just by themselves anymore. Yeah. And they're going to need to partner together.
So co-productions is going to be more and more integral, you think, when it comes to kids?
Yeah. Hopefully. It needs to be, but people are taking their time to see that.
Yeah. Okay. And venture capital maybe as well? Do you see that?
Yeah, but us, within our group, within Banijay, I mean, our priority is to keep most of the rights, most of the ownership, most of the IP.
Yeah.
Because that's how we're going to be able to have a 360-degree strategy and long-term strategy on the show. You want to be able to maximize, a revenue, a brand, grow, and that is got one line. Of course, you can go outside and they will get their money back, and it could be beneficial for everybody. But we are a big group, so we need to be we're independent, producers, and we want to ideally stay like that. But it doesn't mean that it's not a future. and we might get there, but right now that's not necessarily where we will go.
All right. This is your busiest few days of the year, I imagine. So
Yep.
I won't keep you any longer, but thank you for coming on TellyCast.
Thank you very much.
Good luck at the market.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
One of the fantastic things about working in the content industry and being at MIPCOM is that you get to work and meet and just generally get together with some really inspiring people. And I'm delighted to be joined here by AJ McClean of the Backstreet Boys. AJ.
Hello. How are you, bud?
I'm really good, really good. Thank you for taking some time out to talk
My pleasure.
on TellyCast. So first of all, you're on tour, right? Around Europe at the moment.
We are about almost halfway through the European leg. This is our second go in Europe. Did Europe in 2019, right before the pandemic hit. We just finished up our second U.S. leg this past summer. We were out. We did 58 shows in the U.S. and Canada, and we have about 26 shows out here in Europe. And we were just recently in Paris. It's going to be back in France.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been going fantastic. I mean, people missed live concerts. They missed their boys, and we missed our fans. It's been an absolute blessing. The entire tour is sold out, and it's just been an absolute dream to be back on the road.
And you're doing arenas, right? I mean, you're
Arenas,
doing the
yep.
biggest shows ever, I guess.
Arenas, we're doing multiple dates. We have 13 shows alone in Germany just by itself. And then we're heading back to Latin America to do some stadiums at the top of 2023. And then next year is our 30th anniversary, which is crazy to think of. That April 20th of next year will be our Dirty 30. And then we finish up the tour in what we like to call the exotics. So that would be like Dubai, Saudi Arabia, Israel, and hopefully, God willing, finally, South Africa. Right. We've never done a show there. So I just did a show there for a month.
Yeah.
But we have never been to South Africa yet as a group.
That's what's brought you to MIPCOM.
Yep.
And you're here to promote The Fashion Hero, A New Kind of Beautiful. Tell us a little bit about the show and what got you involved in the show.
My very dear friend of mine hit me up and had mentioned to me, hey, would you like to do a TV show that tapes in South Africa? And I said, where do I sign? It's South Africa. This is awesome. I said, but what is the show? He tried to explain it to me, but he said, you know what? Let me get you on a Zoom with the show's creator and executive producer and Mama Bear, if you will, and have her explain it to you. That's when I first met Caroline. When she explained the entire show to me, I said, immediately, where do I sign? This is incredible. I want to attach myself to anything that spreads positivity, love, acceptance, tolerance, and spreads inspiration. There's a lot of negativeness in this world, whether brought on by social media, online bullying. The suicide rate is up, obesity is up, drugs and alcohol is up, abuse is up. So it's to be a part of something that is really, truly in a class of its own. I was honored to be a part of. And it just so happened we were shooting in South Africa, beautiful Sun City Resort. And, out of 200,000 plus applicants, there were 26 different countries that got chosen to be the contestants on the show. They were literally voted on by their peers, people that were inspired by their stories, to push them to go and to face their fears and to try to find out who they really are. Really was life-changing. I learned a lot from a lot of these contestants, as well as they learned a lot about themselves and from each other. It was very family, feeling. It was very warm. It was a very inviting set every single day, whether we started at 4 a.m. or we ended at 3 a.m. Everyone's morale was always up. And it was a pleasure to be a part of this amazing production.
And you mentioned Caroline. That's Caroline Bernier from Beauty Will Search. And she's basically the driving force behind this project. And people have talked in the TV industry and the content industry about content with a purpose, content that's positive, rather than, some of these reality shows that are kind of slightly mean-spirited and maybe they make fun of some of the contests. But this is a different show that is really addressing the issues around the beauty industry and, the unrealistic expectations of brands and beauty. So, so tell us a little bit about how that show plays out then. You said there's 26 contestants.
Yeah, I mean, this is something where, in the fashion industry, because I'm a massive fan of the fashion world. I've been obsessed with fashion since the beginning of my career. But there's been a stigma surrounding the fashion industry of what you're supposed to look like, whether it's in the male model aspect, 6-pack, 8-pack abs. You have to have perfect hair, perfect jawline, perfect everything. Women are, beanpole, rail, skinny, super, and this is what's going out to the youth of today through social media instantly. And a lot of these kids think, oh, that's how I'm supposed to look. That's how I'm supposed to be. And that's not true. Everyone is perfectly imperfect. Everyone is beautiful from the inside out. Everyone is perfect just the way they are. And this show promotes that, where, instead of this supermodel, perfect skin and perfect everything being the face of a national brand, it's the average person. It's the average person that may have never looked at themselves in the mirror and thought, I could be the face of that brand, or I could be, because maybe I don't like the way my skin looks, or I'm overweight, or, mentally I just can't wrap my brain around doing something like this. I'm shy. I'm introverted. I have low self-esteem. And a lot of these contestants had all of these things. And this show helps you face your fears. This show helps you address yourself directly and to overcome adversity and to really come out the other end the person you've always wanted to be. Even if you don't win the show, I've stayed in touch with quite a few of these contestants that didn't make the Final Four, that are doing immaculate. They are absolutely a different person. And that brings me joy because, I've been in this business for 30 years. I'm not perfect, and I still make mistakes, and I still struggle with things in my daily life. And that's just living life on life's terms. But I've been given tools now to know how to navigate my life. That's another thing about this show that I love, is we're giving these contestants tools of how to navigate themselves through life, whether or not they win or lose. There are no losers on this show, honest to God. So, and again, to be part of a national brand campaign as an average person, that gives other people so much hope. And even if they don't want to become, the next fashion guru, it could be some little 9-year-old girl sitting at home that's like, oh, everyone says I'm ugly or says I'm this, I'm that, but they look at this new person on this new brand, whatever it is, cologne, perfume, clothing, and they go, that person looks like me. Like a perfect example, the reactions I've seen on social media of the new Little Mermaid movie coming out. We have a black Little Mermaid. And to see all these young little black girls seeing this, it melts my heart. It's so beautiful because it's like, okay, Ariel doesn't have to be what we've all thought. She's beautiful no matter what her color of her skin. And so, yes, this show promotes such positivity, and we need more of that out there right now. We need shows that inspire people, that make you want to be the best version of yourself.
So why do you identify with this so much, this show?
Because I've literally been through 90% of what these contestants have been through in their lives. Maybe not domestic violence per se, but I've been in a household where I've seen domestic violence. I've dealt with publicly drugs and alcohol abuse for over 2 decades. I have my own insecurities. I have my own fears. And I, unlike most hosts of most shows, most hosts I've seen kind of keep their distance from the contestants of the show. They go to their trailer, they do their own thing. They don't really associate with the actual cast. Me, I was with them every single day from 4 a.m. till 2 p.m. I was like a big brother. I was like maybe like a dad to some of them if they were younger. I'm a people person and I like to get to know people. So being hands-on with these contestants and hearing their stories and getting them to a place of comfort where they can just let it all hang out, and by the end of this taping, I knew so much about these people and they knew so much about me that maybe the regular media and press don't know about me, because I felt comfortable. I felt like we were peers. And that's an incredible thing, to be a part of a show that's very inviting.
Yeah. It feels to me that there's a real movement towards authenticity.
Yes.
That's been driven through social media and people wanting to see kind of unvarnished versions of each other and themselves. And what do you think is driving that? I mean, obviously we're coming out of COVID. There's been a lot of changes in the world over the last few years, and there certainly is a speeding up in terms of diversity and big media companies starting to work out that actually they need to make so much more effort in that space.
Yes, there needs to be major changes now. And, I mean, if you look at the music industry, it's kind of been flipped upside on its ass, because what was the music industry for us at the beginning of our career is not that way anymore. Everything now, because of social media, YouTube, shows like X Factor, America's Got Talent, whatever. Back in my day, it was Star Search. That was the only show that was out where, maybe you might get a record deal from that, maybe not. But now you're seeing so much talent out there on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube. The Charlie Puths and the Justin Biebers of the world, they were found through YouTube. I mean, but there's a dark side to that world as well. And by having a show that leans more into the positive side, all into the positive side, is what's needed. We need more shows that are relatable, that are real, that are genuine, that are not contrived, and where we don't get complacent and just do another typical reality show. This is unlike any other show out there. Yeah. It does really, truly stand in a class of its own.
Well, I wish you all the very best with it. I know Indigo Entertainment have just picked up the distribution rights and they're shopping the show at the market. So I'm sure we'll be seeing some sales announced very soon, because it really does feel like a timely project.
It is. And I think it is also it's a legacy project, because this is a show that can continue on for generations and generations globally around the world and in every different country. Yeah. I truly believe that. So,
and it's a format as well.
It is 100%. So this to me is a true legacy show. So,
okay, all right, AJ, thank you for coming on TellyCast. Lovely speaking to you.
Likewise, man.
As we know, MIPCOM and MIPJUNIOR is a market, and a lot of the focus is about the buying and selling of content and the big distribution businesses and streamers and all the different media businesses that are here doing deals. But also another aspect that I always find really fascinating about MIPCOM in particular is new businesses that are using technology to change the way that content is produced and distributed. And essentially, as we know, AI is coming into all of our lives in a much more prevalent way. I'm here with Moe Bennani from Dreamspark, the first production company using artificial intelligence at its core. Moe, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm very happy to speak with you today at MIPCOM.
Yeah, well, it's great to speak to you, and I'm fascinated by the idea of your business. First of all, tell us about Dreamspark. At the core of what you do, you're our production company.
Yeah, first of all, Dreamspark is a production company, a creative studio and a production company based in Paris. So we operate in France, in Holland and in Germany. These are our core key territories. But then when I created the Dreamspark, the idea was, how can I make this company different from other companies? And I am an engineer at my education is in engineering education, so I was thinking that AI that helps a lot of fields all over the markets, it helps finance, it helps biology, so security, Google. How can we implement AI at the core of production companies? And this is how I created Dreamspark with Julien, who is my partner. It is the first AI-driven formats company.
This is really fascinating. So how can AI help develop formats then in that case?
So the trigger of this adventure was an article of The Guardian, an article of 2020, which has been written by an AI technology. It was written by OpenAI's GPT-3. This technology wrote 8 versions of an article, and then the editor-in-chief made this article happen. And the article the title is "Why Humans Should Not Be Afraid of Me, Robot."
Right.
It was fascinating and scary at the same time. So I'm like, okay, if somebody needs to create an AI to replace my mind, it should be me, because I am an engineer and a creative. How it can help? Well, first, what we do at Dreamspark, we try to take the thing on the other side. We didn't start with creating with AI, but with selling. So the first prototype that we have, called SalesSpark, It's an algorithm. It's a recommendation engine that helps us, based only on the pitch, have a list of channels that are recommended, like what are the channels that you need to go see in priority, worldwide. So it's exactly what Netflix does. Well, they recommend you, like you've watched Love is Blind, so you need to watch Too Hot to Handle. Actually, we do it, but in reverse. Like if Channel 4 ordered this and that, then they might order yours more than ITV or BBC. So this is how our first prototype works, and it's going to go into a beta version, and then we're going to try it with in the private version with the privileged partners, and then it's going to go public, but later in few months or years.
Right, okay. So this technology is proprietary technology that you've developed.
Yeah.
And what is the source data for that then? I mean...
I should kill you for this.
Yeah, right.
So the source data, it's secret, but we use mainly the database of the WIT, which we have a privileged partnership with.
So that is essentially pulling in all this information about who's acquiring what all over the world,
yes,
what sort of content, and what works well.
Absolutely.
There's one thing about who's buying what, but then what about the success of those shows? How does the recommendation engine work then when companies pivot, they make different commissioning decisions, they change, right?
Yeah, of course, and you see it in the evolution of commissioning. It might not appear right now, it will appear in 2-3 months. And if it's the right decision, they will keep on commissioning the same thing. If it's not the right decision, they will pivot again and you will see it again.
Right.
And we see these pivots in the data, actually.
Okay.
Because we give an attention to what they are commissioning, what they are renewing, and when. And this is where the secret is when. It's
right.
What shows the trends, editorial trends of each company, their competitors, the market in general, because we know that they're influenced by each other. What we did basically is modeled what is a format and modeled what is a channel. And we do sort of a match between the two.
Right, okay.
The way we modeled, it's multiple dimensions. In the format, for example, is it a competition or not? Is it involving celebrities or not? So these are the type of dimensions. And for a channel, as I said, is what they have commissioned lately or what they have renewed lately of what their competitors are doing. So this is the way we think.
That's all the way the data's pulling it. And so how many data points, for example, would you have?
Multiple, because one dimension can imply many others behind. Just like when we talk about a competition, is it a competition or not? You need to analyze the words that said this is a competition. But behind analyzing these words, you have the whole, what we call the natural language processing is complex because it doesn't take one dimension. Because language is not one dimension, is multiple dimensions. When you say celebrity, you could say guest, you could say stars, and yet it's the same word.
Right, yes.
So I can't answer to your question about how many dimensions, but it's multiples, 100 plus, at least for what we call format points and channel points.
Right, okay. You've developed this proprietary technology
Yes.
for your own business, and you're utilizing this from your own production company.
Absolutely.
And you're using that now in your sales process, in your pitching process.
Yeah. What's funny is that I go to channels and tell them, listen, I know you have something similar, but my AI says I have to pitch it to you. And from the start, they're like, it's triggering for them, so they are interested.
Yeah.
And I did it lately with a British channel, and the commissioner said, well, you're right. It's bullseye. It's on point. It's exactly what we are looking for. And that proved that we were on the right path. Another thing is I went to a big distributor and I told them, oh, you just launched this format. You just announced the commission. But my database stops right before your commission. So normally if I put it in my engine, the channel that order it should appear first. Well, it appeared as the third one. And they were impressed. And I said, well, if you want to listen to me, you should sell it to this channel and this channel.
Right, okay.
Yes, I use it because we don't have infinite time for pitching. We don't have infinite time for meeting people. And especially when you target different countries at the same time. So we have to be smart.
This is basically time-saving, highly effective targeting tool is what you're talking about.
Not only time-saving. Imagine big companies like Banijay or Fremantle that have big catalogs. they have gold in their back catalogs,
Yeah.
but they don't know. They don't have time to go there. They don't have the the human power to go there. But the computation power of AI makes you scan a catalog quickly in a matter of minutes.
So what's the plan for your business then? Are you going to keep this technology to yourself?
So for now, yes, but we want to make it evolve into a product. And that's why we are launching this beta private version next year. And the goal is to bring VIP partners, the one that we trust, that trust us, for them to test the platform and for me to improve the product. Like the beta version would evolve into a public version and that would be open to the competitors. But I need to keep a head start for my company, of course.
Of course, I get that. So that begs the question, will the beta testing partners have exactly the same model as you've got?
Well, this is the big question and I don't know. It will be complementary because you can be also modular about your platform. You can ignore some parameters, you can enhance other ones depending on who you're talking to. This is something I will figure out, to be honest. The good thing is this is just the first phase of the plan because we already started working on how AI can help us create and develop formats. That would be the big revolution. We are on the path. We see how we can go there. It's tricky because originality is something that AI has difficulty to do because AI will analyze the past to predict or to create the future. The originality is making connections that are different from what you're used to do. So what is it? It's a very subtle way that we need to find. We are on track to find it.
So will there be a time, do you think, when there'll be AI commissioners then, in that case?
AI will definitely be a decision-making tool. It will not replace the human beings. It will not replace the commissioners, but it will make their work easier. They will put data in front of trends, marketing trends, or decisions that are sometimes just taste. I think that it's for the commissioners, but also for the CEOs to make their decision more scientific.
Yes. Well, that's what everybody's looking for, aren't they? In the way that the digital side of the content industry is all about metrics and it's all about, very clear statistics and making decisions and testing and learning. So, as you say, that to aid the decision-making process, it makes perfect sense. So fascinating. Well, Moe, good luck with everything.
Thank you very much.
And I hope you have a very AI-powered
Thank
MIPCOM.
you. Thank you.
Thanks for coming on TellyCast.
Thank you very much.
So one of the themes, I think, at MIPCOM this year is about people coming back together, of course, and often meeting each other in person for the first time. And going back to July 2020, Ruth Berry, who's Managing Director of ITV Studios Distribution, and I think it was one of the first 10 telecast shows that we had a chat. And when nobody knew what was really going to happen as we were, going into COVID, it was just extraordinary time. But it's lovely to meet you in person, Ruth.
You too.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well. Lovely to meet you too.
It's that coming together, I think, that everybody's, really welcoming, aren't they? And we've got a few things to talk about, but we haven't got much time. So first of all, I just wanted to ask you about ITV Studios Distribution. What are your key titles at MIPCOM? So you're back. It's a kind of, almost back to full effect MIPCOM. So what are your key titles that you're showcasing here this week?
Yeah, and lots. And I think they're really good examples, actually, of the journey we've been on for the last few years. So I think during that pandemic, we were still busy wooing talent to come into the studios business. And I think this market's the first time we're selling some of the shows from that talent that we've been building over the last couple of years. So that's probably a change since we last spoke. And so I'm delighted to talk about some of those. So one in particular is a show called Nolly, which is produced by Nicola Schindler, who came into ITV Studios earlier this year, written by Russell T Davies, who I think needs no further introduction, and starring Helena Bonham Carter, who equally needs no further introduction, and what is a lovely sort of heartfelt story about Noelle Gordon, who was a mega soap star in Crossroads, which was getting 15 million viewers a night, which I'm sure is an audience we'd all fall off our chairs for these days, falls from grace as a much-loved soap star and is axed. And is coming to terms with being axed and what all of that means, and just the story for her. And it's a beautiful piece of television, and I have to say an enormously stellar performance from Helena Bonham Carter. Bringing that to market's really good, fun, exciting.
And that's a really good example, I guess, of a local story that can travel internationally.
Absolutely. And I think it feels very exportable because everyone's got that story. Everyone's got the soap star, fall from grace, and I think just the way it's been written, the way it's been produced, it looks very cinematic. So it's a very high quality, and I think that chimes in really nicely with a lot of the great content that we're seeing in the market at the moment. I think we've got a super thriller from World Productions called Malpractice, and that's really about a doctor in a hospital. She's a very high-achieving, successful doctor who, an incident on one of her shifts around a drug overdose propels her into an investigation by the hospital authorities around whether there was some ill behaviour perhaps around the death of one of the patients, and what we have is a thriller that takes us on a journey with her. So I can't give too much away, so I can't talk about it very much, but it is absolutely brilliant, edge of your seat type show from World Productions, much as you would find in the world of Vigil or Line of Duty, those sorts of things. So really, really fabulous show. Something really quite different for us is a show called 15 Love, which, if you hadn't guessed, is in the tennis space. So again, it's World Productions, and it's starring Aidan Turner as a tennis coach and a brilliant new female talent as a tennis player. And what it is really, I guess, at the heart of it is a bit of a Me Too story around the tennis circuit profession, and I think we haven't seen that before. That's quite an unusual narrative. It's one that actually hit the press earlier this year in real life. I think Billie Jean King and others have come forward with various stories. It's sort of got that thread between, is she obsessing about him? Is she fantasizing, or is this real? Do we believe him? Do we trust him? Do we not? And it sort of propels us through different episodes of indecision around whether she's right, he's right, we don't know. So I'm definitely not going to give that away.
Yeah.
We have, from Patrick Spence, also joined ITV Studios recently, is Litvinenko, we talked about earlier in the year, which will air this year. We just announced today we sold that to over 80 markets before it's even premiered, which is great, and I think also a good example of sort of where the industry is at the moment as well. And he has a great show called Maternal, which is around 3 female doctors who are coming back to work after maternity leave, and just how they find going back to frontline hospital work. And I think in particular, for me, as a mum of 2 young kids, I think one of them is on a paediatric ward. And I know that since having kids, I've become a complete wuss at watching anything where anything happens to a child. So I suspect I can imagine what it'd be like going back as a paediatric doctor into a hospital setting when you've just had a child. So I think that's a lovely, again, sort of heartfelt, warm and funny and lovely drama coming from Patrick. Yeah. And then another quite different show from Dominic Treadwell-Collins, who joined us also recently, is You and Me, which, back to the same theme of struggling with as a young mother watching shows where things happen to kids, is a heart-wrenching and heartwarming drama of a journey of young love and loss, and the loss is deep and the love is great, and it's just a roller coaster really of a beautiful drama of 2 young individuals. So I think it's a really, really good mix for us, and I think that's really important. I think for us to have the breadth and depth of drama is really important. And then we have an incredible natural history show. So you will also probably be aware, since we spoke last, we acquired Plimsoll Productions, and we have a fabulous natural history show called A Year on Planet Earth, which is absolutely beautiful. So we've brought in co-production partner Fox Nation in the US, Tencent in China, and the ARD Group in Germany, and then we're out selling the rest of the world here.
Right.
So we premiered that here in Cannes today.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think that's a bigger scale than we've ever done before, but we're really excited. I think it's a big new genre for us.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask that question, is because ITV Studios Distribution hasn't really become known for natural history. I mean, is this the first major project that you've embarked on in this space?
Yeah, certainly on this scale and level. I mean, we've done a lot of high-end factual programming. We've got one, Rainbow Warrior, here that we're launching this market, but I think in terms of the sort of scale and ambition and cost of natural history, it's the biggest one we've done. And I think also for ITV, as a commissioner, it's the first time I think they've commissioned natural history for maybe best part of 20 years. So I think we're all hoping it works, and if it works, then hopefully there'll be more. Right,
okay, well, watch this space. Natural history, and we talk about various different dramas that you're bringing to market. And I listened back before we met to one of the earlier shows that we did, and when we spoke indeed last time, we were talking at that point about you know how buyer patterns were changing, and obviously production stopping. You know how that was affecting demand for content. What did you learn from that? Because that was in July 2020, so obviously there was a good few months after that. What did you learn? How did you see buyer patterns changing through the pandemic, through the sort of first, second and third wave?
Yeah, and I think probably when we spoke, there was still a big degree of uncertainty because I don't think anyone thought the pandemic would last as long as it did. So I think there was still that case of, well, look, is our schedule going to hold together? Is it not? We're not sure. And I think what turned out beyond that was clearly a lot more uncertainty for a longer period of time. And I think for us, we were very fortunate to have some shows that were in post-production or in the can, and people found ways of going back into post-production remotely. And so we did still have a level of new programming available, but what we saw was a big pivot to the catalogue. And I think, many days, thank goodness we've got 90,000 hours of programming in that catalogue because it's very broad, it's very deep. And I think what we learned from our own broadcaster was how to bring some of that library back to life and still curate great schedules with that content. So, for example, ITV would acquire more runs of something like Vera. So very strong drama for them. But actually, in most cases, a lot of our partners, the traditional broadcasters, would air maybe one or two runs of a piece of content. And so we had international buyers coming back, maybe increasing the number of runs they bought, repeating things, but in sort of smart ways and really being selective around feeding the audiences that they knew they didn't necessarily have something new for, that they could still bring to television and give some sort of comfort television. So I think we learned quite a lot from what was happening in the UK, and that also applied to many of our buyers internationally. And then I think this new streaming community that was coming in that was sort of benefiting, I think, from more people being at home, buying into streaming services, and that, huge proliferation of sub numbers coming out of Netflix and then Disney Plus. So I think what we found towards the end of the pandemic, and bear in mind, I was also very fortunate that we had a great production community in the UK that actually, by hook or by crook, we're still making television largely. They did a brilliant bounce back. I think our soaps were one of the first ones back, and then we sort of cascaded the know-how in. But the streamers came in sort of thick and fast, buying a lot of that catalogue. And I think, like I said, I was very grateful to have 90,000 hours of it that we could look to mine. I think the other trend that we've seen happen a lot post-COVID, and I think rumour has it, and I haven't thought too much about it yet, but that some of the trends that we were seeing in television pre-pandemic accelerated sort of 5 to 10 years. Now, I don't know, 5 to 10 is quite a long range if you think back 5 to 10, but, when you look at the AVOD market, you look at the emergence of fast channels, I think what we've seen coming out of the pandemic is quite a lot of change. So I think we've spent quite a lot of time going into that world as well and looking at what we can do around AVOD and fast, and we've launched channels in that space and finding bigger partnerships. So I think we've learnt a lot. Yeah.
There was quite a lot of noise at Edinburgh about reboots as well. And we're seeing lots of reboots of brands from the 80s, really, in the 90s, I guess. Do you see that as a direct result of COVID? Do you think there is a buyer and an audience thirst for familiar brands in uncertain times? Is that
it's hard to tell, isn't it? It's hard to tell. I think nostalgia is a wonderful thing in many ways, right? And people go back into shows that they haven't seen for a while. I think we see the same from a catalogue perspective, I guess, that people are buying shows that they haven't necessarily had in their schedules for a while, that are finished programmes. I think on the reboot side, it's an interesting one, and I think it did get a lot of flack at Edinburgh, didn't it?
Yeah.
And I think it is hard to launch a new format at the moment. And I think I can't tell whether that is a level of risk aversion because of the current macroeconomic state of life, whether it's come from a legacy of COVID, whether it's because of the future-facing sort of fears of recession and things like that. But I think what we're also learning is that a lot of those reboots aren't having a level of longevity. So I don't know whether there's a success in there. I think what we're finding is some of the spin-offs of shows that we've got are doing really well. So if you think about The Voice and The Voice Seniors and The Voice Kids, and I think we're looking at much more around how we can build on some of the great brands that we have. And Come Dine With Me Professionals, we've talked about here at the market today, and I think we're just getting a second season commission on that. So I think we are equally doubling down on the great brands that we have that we know work and sort of super serving them as much as digging into the archives on the reboot side. So We'll see.
as a community as well, wider than that, we're lurching from COVID and recovery of COVID now into cost of living crisis. We're seeing, macro issues that are affecting us all, Ukraine war, all of these things. I mean, how do you see the cost of living crisis or crunch or whatever you'd like to call it in the months ahead? Because I think everybody's feeling, obviously the economy is a little bit wobbly in the UK at the moment, and there's a lot of uncertainty, financial markets, interest rates around the world. How do you see that affecting the distribution business? Are you putting plans in place to mitigate that?
I think there's never been a better reason to have escapist television and in abundance, I think. I think when we've had recessions before, we find that there's a lot of times people are staying at home more, watching more television. So I think the reality is that will happen, which is good for us. I think, again, it's going to be about good content. It's going to be about escapist content. I was watching the first episode of A Year on Planet Earth the other day, and I just thought, God, it's so nice to be in a sort of a primitive world of animal life and not being worried about all of those other things that are going on. And they don't even have money, so they don't even know what it means. And I think that level of having escapist program is going to be key.
Transporting you to another place.
And I think that's it. If you don't want to be watching the news and be in the present, then go and transport yourself somewhere else. And I think that's where we're at. Whether it's in scripted, unscripted, whether it's the formats we have, I think it's just great content, transporting people into those places, and never more important than in a recession. And I think it'll be interesting to see what happens in the pay TV space. I think in the advertiser-funded space, and obviously in the public service sense. We've then got that mix of some of the SVODs launching ad-funded tiers, and maybe that's really good timing around a recession. So I think it'll be really interesting to see. But there's definitely concern. I think cost inflation around drama production is probably one that concerns me more, and I think we need to crack. And again, that's where I think our scale as a business of having broad-reaching partners around the world to sell the shows at least helps us in those funding cycles, which is going to be more key than ever, I think, over the coming months. I think the TV industry largely is a good one to be in a recession because people tend to stay home and watch more telly. So providing we're making good telly and it's telly they want to watch, I think we'll weather the storm. Yeah,
well, we certainly saw that during COVID, just extraordinary viewing numbers of programming. So here we are in Cannes at MIPCOM. Everybody's back together again. Certain territories haven't been able to make it, particularly China. What's your sense of MIPCOM this year then? We're the first kind of proper MIPCOM for 3 years, really.
Yeah, I think, look, people are really, really enjoying seeing each other. I've seen so many smiles today. I think everyone is just so happy to see people, alive and well, and have this sort of a reunion around them. And I think it helps that the sun is shining, which makes everyone feel a bit better. I think it feels busy. I wouldn't say it's packed, but it's busy. It's constructively busy. I think everyone is here in terms of distributors. The US studios are here in some guys. We're obviously here in full force. So I think it's good to be back. I think it sort of what happens next is going to be an interesting one. All the macroeconomic things that you've explained, it's an interesting time, isn't it? It's a very turbulent time.
It is, yeah.
So, but I think for the here and now and being in Cannes for a few days, I think everyone is very happy and will make the most of it.
Well, let's hold on to that for the next few days whilst we can. Ruth, thank you again for coming on. It's lovely to meet you in person.
Well, lovely to do it in person.
And have a fantastic rest of MIPCOM.
Thank you very much.
So my next guest is the wit's Virginia Mouseler. Lovely to see you again, Virginia. How are you?
Lovely to see you, Justin. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for joining me and interrupting your hectic schedule of presentations in the Grand Auditorium here at MIPCOM. Obviously, you're known for spotting trends around the world when it comes to formats and various other programming genres. So I'm really keen to just give TellyCast listeners just a sense of your different presentations and what you've found in your research over the past few months that you're presenting here for the first time.
So the first presentation I did was about formats in all genres, entertainment, factual, etc. And really, I can't call it a trend, but it's really a word that struck us. It's renaissance. So renaissance is also the renaissance of this market, the renaissance of life and of television and of content. I had the impression over the past 2 or 3 years that I had interesting shows for sure. But I didn't have so many shows to present. This year I had plenty of shows. So I could do a real selection with a lot of choice. And really what struck me, it's the word Renaissance. And if we defined, scientifically or historically the word Renaissance, what is Renaissance is remember the antiquity, take some antics and revive it in a new way, in a modern way. And that's exactly what happens in TV. It's Renaissance and reminiscence. So there are a lot of shows that remind us of good shows of the past, 20, 30 years ago or 10 years ago in various genres. But it's not like you have a revolutionary new shows, but you have new sounds, new, old sounds that become hype again. In particular, the first show I presented, it was reviving the roller disco. So, this year, the skaters were really in all the trends in the streets. And now you have a show where celebrities try to skate again, on disco music.
Right.
The second show was reviving the disco ball. You have a disco ball hiding the head of a celebrity in throwback, throwdown, distributed or Fremantle. So you have plenty of music from the 80s, shows from the 80s, an old dating show from Talpa. It's like a revival of the old blind date, dating shows, but also with a mystery and it's a song in the name of love. But when you see it, you see it's in a studio. You think a minimalist heart, like a little wall, and there is a blind date, a singing blind date that makes matches, love matches. So plenty of reminiscence that make comforting new shows. In terms of trend, there are a lot of dating games as usual. And one that was really original and fun, and I think the audience, I heard that they loved it. It's called Virgin Island. Virgin Island, it's, you have a sound, it can look like Love Island with a paradise beach, but there is a bunch of bitches, very sexy and experienced bitches,
yeah.
And a lovely, handsome bachelor who has a secret. He's a virgin. So it's, at the same time, it's comedy. It's, reminiscence of the world famous dating show, Love Island.
Right.
With experienced women. And this, the last handsome virgin on earth.
Right.
The hero, the bachelor. And we'll see. And he will tell them his secret when he eliminates them.
Oh, right.
So it's so funny. And so a lot of dating games, dating shows, mixing, the trends that we already know over a couple of years, but with new elements, new and funny comedy elements.
Is 80s a bit of a theme here then? I mean, when we talk about Renaissance and is it 80s in particular that you're seeing a little bit of interest from broadcasters in that particular point in time? You talked about roller discos, much more 70s obviously, but is there a particular time span that you're thinking that people are harking back to?
Oh, it's 70s, 80s, obviously. Like now, the 80s and 70s is 50, 40 years, so they can mix it together. It's
yeah.
not, and I wondered, but if it's the bout of the 80s, does it mean that TV viewers is the target, old TV viewers who have lived, who have done, who have been skating in the 80s. But I think, no, it's not only that, because, music of 70s, 80s are rediscovered by a younger target. And also, it goes by, the skate hype over the past year. You saw a lot of skaters on TikTok. So it's a revival. Maybe, people after the Middle Ages who made the Renaissance from the antiquity, they didn't live in the antiquity, obviously. So So I think it's not because people of my age who skated in the 80s or who danced on the music of the 80s. It's not because, it's not just for them. It's not for antiquities like me, but it's also for young people who revive the 80s melodies and we revive the 70s fashion, etc.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. My son, he's 17. He's listening to the Smiths, and Rick Astley's been a massive resurgence in his career over the last couple of years.
Yes, so it means that really it's for a young TV with the 70s and 80s. Have a young target and not only people who have been alive in those years.
Yeah, interesting. Virginia, thank you so much. Again, I realise how busy you are, and it was great to see your presentations here this week. Thanks for coming on TellyCast. We'll see you back at MIPTV, I guess, in April.
Yes, see you in April, Justin, and I hope it will be as sunny as today.
So any MIPCOM or MIPTV show wouldn't be complete without Lucy Smith here, the boss of those events. Lucy, how are you?
Hi, Justin. I'm great. Feeling a little weary, but very excited and still on the adrenaline of having such a great show.
We're sat in the Palais. We're overlooking the Bay of Cannes here, and we can see A&E, we can see ITV Studios, we can see Banijay's stand. All of the outdoor stands are back, and there's lots more as well. So it feels like MIPCOM's very much back.
Absolutely. I think it's been so exciting to have MIPCOM back at full strength, which, as you say, is often kind of, you can feel that from the presence of all of these major companies with great tents on the beach, Paramount and Fremantle, Banijay and ITV. I mean, that really kind of is an indication and a reflection of the kind of excitement and the health of the show. And, mentioning Fremantle, they also use that as an opportunity to do a great party, bringing sort of A-list talent down to Cannes.
We saw Cara Delevingne, didn't we?
We did. We saw Cara Delevingne introducing her new documentary, Planet Sex, is exec producer, which I think is great. More and more, talent wanting to get more behind the scenes about important subjects of, diversity, inclusion, really important. And as you know, important to us, we have the Diversify TV Awards as well here at MIPCOM, which are key to us.
That's right. So the stars have really come out. A lot of the big media businesses have flown all their talent down to the red carpet as well. And we saw real-life Logan Roy, Brian Cox obviously, was here as well.
Yes, we did. And we saw, let's not forget, the beautiful, amazing Emily Blunt on Sunday night, who has immortalised her hands on the Walkway of Fame here in Cannes. So that was exciting, red carpet moment, yeah.
And obviously we had AJ McClean from the Backstreet Boys, who was obviously also on the show too. So, star-studded MIPCOM. Yeah. So tell us the numbers then, Lucy. Give us an idea of how many people are here and, what the turnout has been this year.
Sure. These are probably not the absolute final, but we're around 10,500, which, to be honest, initially I've been telling everyone it would be around 10, and it's actually 10,500, which is great. 101 countries represented. Of that, we have more than 3,000 buyers, almost 3,000 producers, the national pavilion. So I just think it's the only event that can bring that global industry, bringing all of that content back together on this, the global stage that MIPCOM can offer.
We're also looking forward towards, it's probably a bit early to talk about it when MIPCOM's still happening, but MIPTV obviously is the next big show on the agenda. Is there anything you can tell us about that at this stage?
Sure, yeah. MIPTV is really going to be very much around the documentary and factual content business. We're launching a set of initiatives which will allow the big companies that need to present their new big major sort of tentpole documentaries and factual content. We're going to be offering them that stage, and we know that it's very much awaited, anticipated. And also actually our partners from Cannes Series just announced this week they're also going to be creating a new official selection of documentary series to go alongside the regular scripted lineup that they have. So overall, it's going to be a really exciting MIP TV, as well as, of course, we'll continue offering many other focuses of all of the other genre. We'll have a great MIP drama, which will change its format slightly. We're going to be presenting a new Kids Summit, and for MIP formats will also be part of MIP TV. So as we created this year, we're bringing MIP Doc and MIP formats into the main show over 3 days. It's all about having a really productive market. But what's new is really this big focus on documentary programming, which will also kick off as a pre-MIP TV day, a Super Sunday.
So back to MIPCOM as well.
Yeah.
One of the new initiatives that you launched this year was the Seaview area, the producers co-production hub. Mm-hmm. How's that gone down?
It's been incredible. So yeah, that was a brand new initiative, 1,000 square meters dedicated to co-production, the Seaview Producers Hub. And it's been standing room only for the conferences. I think, we're all aware that there's never been so much of a need for the big international partnerships to bring companies together looking for funding through co-production. So we've had a great conference program. It's been very focused on scripted, but we also had the formats Frappa Summit this morning and a documentary co-production funding summit. We've had also the European Commission in town, media, who are really excited about all of this, and we're talking about what we can do together, as well as the French CNC. And we really believe in bringing the national organizations that help support the industry and in bigger ways. We work very closely. We had the amazing Spain audiovisual from Spain who supported us in this as well. So it was a really great initiative. We're delighted. We're one of the kind of highlights of MIPCOM, I think.
Right, well, Lucy, I'm going to let you go because you're going literally from one thing to another. I'm practically doorstepping you on your way to your next appointment. But congratulations on the biggest MIPCOM for 3 years. So roll on MIP TV.
I couldn't agree more. Thanks so much, Justin. Enjoy everything up until the end.
Well, that's about it for this week's Bumper MIPCOM show. It was great to be busy at MIPCOM. Just a reminder that tickets are still available for the TellyCast Digital Content Forum at the BFI South Bank on November the 10th. Just go to tellycast.com/events. TellyCast was edited by Ian Chambers and recorded in Cannes. Until next week, stay safe.